Okay, I want to thank everybody for hopping on and joining us today. This course, Ron is going to take the lead and kind of walk you through the first five modules. So, Ron, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. Thanks, Jess. I should more formally thank Jess for making this practical. I guess we could probably stumble our way through, but Jess makes it practical for us to be able to do this a lot more effectively. I also want to thank Randy and Jerry for uh, signing up to be chairs for the judging team at the DSO this year. As you all know, the three of us will have trouble filling Tony's shoes, but we'll do our best to and maybe even include bits of him in the process because he certainly has influenced all of us. Big picture, I'm going to talk about form. And I forget, Jerry, are you doing color or Randy
Yeah,
doesn't?
I'm doing color next week.
Yep. And then Randy will go through the quote unquote the other half. And I'll explain that a little bit more when I get to a good slide for that. And then the fourth week, we'll kind of all weigh in on the judging of trial gardens and the judging on show bench. So I hope that everybody enjoys the conversation and learns something from it. I view that it's an important thing for all the DSO judges to participate in. And again, I'll touch on that a little later. And we certainly want to welcome those who are interested in learning a bit more about judging. And I hope that by virtue of that, learning a bit more about it, you'll be encouraged to consider becoming a judge because it is an important part of our club to be able to successfully put on shows. And I think you'll find that we have a lot of fun in doing it. I guess I would suggest maybe we could do it this way. If everybody were to mute themselves, I think that would be best starting practice. And then Jess, if people put up comments on chat, can you kind of keep an eye on that? And if it looks like we ought to take a break, obviously we can do that anytime.
Yep.
But
And I went ahead and muted everyone. So don't
okay.
stress about muting yourself. Um, the other thing too is I think there's a way for you guys to raise your hand. It's been a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or just put it in the chat. And I can just give Ron a heads up that somebody has a question. And does everybody
Okay,
how to use
excuse me.
on Zoom? Does everybody know how to use the chat real quick?
The bottom of the page, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's tucked under more with three dots. So if you don't see it right away, you might be able to see something that says more. Okay, Deb's got it. If you can't find it and have a question, come off mute and we'll figure it out.
Yep.
Cool. Everybody's chatting. Great job, guys. I love it.
Okay, let's get started. Let's see. I don't think we need that one. Here is one that we do need. These are a couple documents that you will need to have. They're important documents. The Guide to Judging Data is something that you should be reading. It's a new and improved version over the one that I grew up with that was all text. And I view the new guide, the one that's shown there, it with lots of pictures to be a lot more effective. And I think we can use these judging modules as a next step up in being effective in providing some conversation to go along with the module. The 2023 classification handbook, I don't have a 23. I've got an older one here. But again, that's something that is very important. I think one key message is that as our experience grows in the Dahlia Society, there will be changes in the classification descriptions, and that the current handbook, classification and handbook is the place to get that. So again, these are two fundamentals. At any show, you want to be taking the classification and handbook with you every time. Guided judging Dahlias probably isn't as directly useful at a show, but the classification and handbook is. Okay, it's kind of a general picture of practices. A couple different methods for judging. We'll talk about that some more. The levels of judges, we'll talk about that. Responsibilities, team composition, practices. There's some important things to be discussed there, and materials, which we've kind of already covered. Okay, I'm going to skip that one. There are basically two different approaches for judging, and in our seedling bench evaluation, and in the trial gardens, we use a form that I'll show you in just a minute that basically judges the blooms that you're examining against what we would like to consider as perfection. And that's kind of a step down the road, if you will, from show judging, which is where we are basically judging each dahlia against the ones that it is being shown with. So we divide the classes in pretty finely and judge like flowers against each other. And in a lot of ways, that's a little easier because you basically look for imperfections and then rate those imperfections. And so most of the initial phases of judging as a candidate judge or as a new judge, that's where you will be beginning.
Hey,
Ron, yeah, please.
Do you want to define trial garden and seedling bench a little bit more for new people?
Yeah, probably a good idea, Jerry. Thank you. At shows, originators, that is people who grow dahlias from seed, will be able to put their new seedlings up to be judged against perfection, to see if they are qualified. If they should be qualified as an ADS seedling. And in order to make that, you bring 3 of those seedlings in and enter them in the specific section. It's called seedling bench evaluation, and it gets judged by 3 or a majority of senior judges, and they fill out this sheet, and if it scores 85 or higher, then it passes that inspection, if you will, and becomes an official ADS cultivar. The alternative that I mentioned is the trial garden, and there are 7. I used to know that answer. 7 trial gardens, I believe, located around the country in Canada, where as an exhibitor, as a hybridizer, I am able to send my seedlings for judging in the trial garden. We used to have a trial garden down in Youngstown, but they had to give up on that. There are a lot of time and effort and required to keep those in good shape. The closest one that we have now is in Elkhart, and I know a number of our judges do go over there to judge, and they have a nice Saturday picnic that usually coincides with the Cuyahoga Fair. That where judging is performed in the trial garden following a very similar, almost identical form as this one. You want to add anything, Jerry, or does that capture it? Competition is what we ordinarily do in shows, and you're comparing one flower to all of the others in the class. And we're going to talk quite a lot more about that as we go along. Basically, you need to examine every bloom in that whole class and decide which among them is the best. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that happens in our fourth session. Okay, there are several levels of judges ADS recognizes: candidate, accredited, senior, and honorary senior. And our club is down to 3 or 4 senior judges. So that's, I want you guys to be, particularly our accredited judges, to be looking at moving up. So we have a couple more senior judges because we can sure use them. Okay, just some words about what you take on when you agree to become a judge. You need to be as familiar as you can with as many different cultivars as possible, and that's probably my own personal weakness. I end up having to, if I'm asked to identify a cultivar, I almost always have to go back through the classification process and then look in the book and try to determine which one it is. It is. So, you know, I mean, there's a whole range of skills here. Some people are an encyclopedia of the names of cultivars that they see. Not so good for me there. You need to grow quality dahlias, and which is, I hope, a strength and an attraction for everybody to want to learn more about getting good quality dahlias. You need to learn from your colleagues. You need to learn in situations like this one. There's a lot to be said about how you interact with people in the judging situation. And that is an important piece of learning to basically to listen, to hear what other people are saying is kind of the chief one in my mind. You need to continually expand your knowledge and meet requirements for advancement is something that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago.
Can I tag that a little bit, Ron?
Sure, please, Randy.
Something I found to be very advantageous is to try to get yourself on as many different judging teams, or to judge with as many different judges as possible, because every different judge has something positive to bring for you to learn.
Well said. And what you will learn, I hope, as we go through this process, is that the best place to do that is like a national show or a regional show where there are lots of different folks involved, and that's a real value of participating in those shows. One of the things that you do need to do is judge seedlings as you advance from a candidate judge onward. Attend workshops. That's what we're about right now. Okay, I'm gonna just skip by that one. Yeah, one of the ones that's kind of important for all of us is to recognize not only insect damage, but also nutrient deficiencies and virus as well. Those are ones that we in the Midwest have a real, in my mind, a real strength at. And again, as Randy said, something that you can learn from your colleagues as you go through that process. Yeah, this goes to the temperament and the experience. I remember writing a column about Miss let's see, MT, that was Miss Milquetoast, and her experience judging with Joe BS, a big shot. And basically, the point was you need to respect and learn and hear what others are saying, and you need to be comfortable in stating your opinions and based particularly based on knowledge of what you get out of the manual. Yeah, judging teams basically they tend to be a mix of senior accredited and candidate judges. Hopefully we will have enough senior judges to have one in each team. That's a little tough with just 3 or 4 of us. So that's a good reason to get some more. Okay. Yeah, one of the important things, and this sort of addresses it, but not really specifically. One of the things that happens is that you, as a team, reach a conclusion. In other words, each judge needs to kind of look over the class and identify some defects to discuss with the team. And then after this discussion process and the weighing of the different opinions, you reach a conclusion on which one is the best. And the key here is that you need to adopt the team conclusion, because you'll often find a situation where someone will say to you, geez, I don't understand, why my entry wasn't the best here. And you need to be able to say, you ought not to say, yeah, you're right. Those dummies didn't understand. You need to be able to say, we considered that, and these are the reasons that we reached the conclusion that we did. And that needs to be a part of your demeanor as you go through the process. Okay, that the one we just had, yeah. One of the things that will happen is that you will get into classes where you have an entry, and it can be a little awkward because basically what you want to do is not make it super obvious that you have an entry in that class. You just sort of want to step back and, you might ask the senior judge if he'd like for you to, if he or she would like you to find an alternative to help in the class. You just don't need, you ought not to make it clear that, oh yeah, this is my entry, because that's not appropriate. Yeah, you just need to, as this young woman did, step back and have a cookie or something. Yeah, you want to understand your own prejudices. I like yellow formal decks real well. And you need to kind of have that in the back of your mind that you want to be impartial. You want to judge without your prejudices influencing your decisions. Yeah, I just think if you keep that you do have prejudices in mind, it makes it easier to remain impartial when you are judging. Yeah, just basically more of the same. You want to be approach it systematically. There's a Tony input for you. You need to approach a class looking at every entry. You want to do it systematically. You want to go from one end to the other and identify difficulties that you see so that you can discuss it with the rest of the team. Yeah, you want to
Sorry,
go ahead.
can I mention one little thing too, just from the perspective as a candidate? One of the things that Tony always coached me is as a candidate, we're there to participate, but also learn. So if we're not on a team that is actively talking about the rationale as to like what they're looking for and kind of leading us through their mindset and process, that we should kind of stop them and ask them to do it. And I think our society is really good with it. But I was at a national show with on a team where they weren't talking at all. And I had to like step up and ask them to like, could you talk out loud so I have an understanding of how you're approaching things? And it was definitely uncomfortable, but they got it and they understood. And so then our team started to work a little better. So that's one thing I would encourage all of the candidate judges is to ask questions and make sure that your team is talking to you.
Yeah, I agree 120%. It's entirely appropriate to, just call a timeout and say, I'd appreciate, understanding a little more about how you made that decision. It's entirely appropriate. And as a candidate judge, you certainly, as a senior judge, you should feel comfortable saying, let's talk about that a little more because I'm not sure I understand how we got to the conclusion that we did. That's what my Mr. Big Shot guy was doing. He was kind of making decisions over Miss Milquetoast. Okay, yeah, materials, we talked about that before. You sure need the classification handbook, and you want to have a guide close at hand if you don't have it right with you. Okay, true or false? Judges who like giant blooms can award higher merit to those blooms. What do you think?
False.
False. Well said, whoever said that. Yeah, all sizes, colors, and forms are of equal merit. And again, you need to make sure that you're not letting your biases influence decisions. Okay, I'm gonna just zip through these. Yeah, I'll stop here just to go back to Jess's point about being open to discussion. There are some classes that you'll find in a show that are pretty obvious, pretty easy to look at each of the entries, but recognize that there is a obvious winner. But that's not frequently the case. One of my favorites was a head table where Tony had a Kenora wildfire that everybody just recognized that as the obvious winner. So it didn't require much discussion, but most classes do. Yeah, you want to keep up to date with current news and research, and you should be expanding your knowledge as you go throughout. Okay, that's very quick, broad discussion. How am I going to get rid of this bar this time, Jess? I think I need to.
I'm not quite sure how you did it. Can you move it? If you click on it.
I don't seem to be able to, let's see. Oh, maybe I could just pause share. Well, it doesn't get rid of the bar for me.
We could stop the screen share and then you could start it again if you want to try that. It's up to you. Do you want to try that?
Gonna see if I can go here. No, that's not gonna help me.
Okay,
Shoot, it worked when we were practicing.
I know. Let me.
Okay, I better just stop share.
Oh, you got it.
And then go,
Go to the new tab and then
Yep.
reshare.
okay. And how do I get the reshare back?
So it'll be share screen at the bottom again.
Yeah, but it isn't there.
You got to go back to Zoom. You might be in your browser.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, folks.
You're good. Hey, Zoom is not easy to figure out. When
Okay,
you're-
now. Wow.
You got it. Fully double.
Oh,
You're good.
Hopefully, hopefully next time we can do that more easily. Yeah, okay, we're gonna talk about form and we'll start with the fully double. This is the fully double module. And we're gonna go through it one at a time, probably. There are 20 distinct forms if you include both fully double and open-centered. And we're going to talk about fully double for a while. The form is determined at the equator of a mature bloom. And this has a pretty nice ball. You can see how involute those equator ray florets are. We'll get to that further down in just a minute. Okay, these are the formal or the fully double values: formal deck, informal, semi-cactus, cactus, incurred cactus, and laciniated. And these are the set of forms that go from micro to AA. And so these are the sized groups. Then there are balls, miniature balls and ponds, and that's kind of a similar sized group. Stellar, water lily, and novelty double. So that comprises all of our fully double forms. Yes, okay, well, there are in our nomenclature system, the formal deck and informal deck, the letters tend to be the ones that we use most often, but they're also apparent in the numeric system. The second digit in the 4-digit system is the is the form. I'm sorry, lost my train of thought there completely. So this 2008 indicates the 0 is formal decorative and the size is B and the color is 8. Okay. Here's a semi-cactus or semi-cactus. This is Clearview Edie. And again, the 4-digit classification number is 1201. And the 2 indicates that is semi-cactus. Guess we're going to probably go through that whole set. Oh, here's a ball, and 61 indicating it's a miniature ball. Anybody see any form faults? It's funny. I don't know why they picked this one with this center. That isn't the perfect center. But okay, keep going. One of the things that is important that you become comfortable with are as the vocabulary, basically on the description of the form, and we're going to spend a fair amount of time talking about that. The ray floret, that's the individual piece of the composite flower. So that is a floret in the flower. And it can take several forms, and those forms determine the overall form of the cultivar. Incurve means that, as like in that, they're all curving up towards their center at the face of the bloom. Recurve means they're curving back away from the center of the bloom. Involute means that the ray florets curl upward, inward. Revolute, I bet you know, is going to go the opposite. It's going to fold backwards. And when it's fully revolute, it holds all the way down and covers the other side, like here. That's fully revolute over that distance. Okay, then reflexing basically just means the florets come out towards the back of the bloom. Petalite, I don't know why that one's mixed in here. I guess you do occasionally have petaloids on fully double cultivars. These are relatively more obvious in this example because they're of a different color. Those are petaloids inside the ray floret. And they're actually, if you actually pull them, that petaloid stays with the petal. Okay, now the definitions. And I'm gonna digress for a second. This is why, well, I have a number of different tabs in my classification and handbook, and one of them is at form definitions, because I feel like as a judge who's judging 6 different classes, it's important that you have in mind the definition for the form that you are judging. And so I have this book in my pocket, and as a matter of good habit, when we're not in a crisis rush, I'd like to get out and read that definition as we start to judge formal decorative section. And so anyway, these are those descriptions. We're going to talk about quite a lot more, but I encourage you to consider that as a usual habit. These are the elements that are in the formal description that are in the classification and handbook. And so they're important, and they're something that you should have in your mind as you start to judge a class. Yeah, the florets in a here's another lovely fault problem. The ray florets are flat and broad. Tips tend to be round, although they can also come to a slight point like this one does. Here are some, I guess, maybe better examples of fully double formal decorative dahlias.
And Ron, for the new people, when you talk about a fold, ideally, you're talking about that center, right? And that center should be completely closed.
Yes.
And then see
Yep.
into it, or there shouldn't be a hole in it. So that's kind of what Ron's pointing out there.
Here's another one with kind of an oddball center. It's not nice, smooth center like this is probably the best center in the group. But one of the key, we're going to get to symmetry in a few minutes. And here's one that's kind of flat on the top and flat along there and rough here. So the symmetry on this particular picture is relatively poor, but we'll get back to that in a minute. But yeah, thanks, Jess. That's what I was referring to. Okay, informal decorative is similar, except that the arrangement can be completely irregular, and the ray florets can be twisted and wavy. So it provides quite a distinctly different appearance from a highly uniform appearance of the formal deck. Most cases, the ideal diameter is 3/4, or the depth is 3/4 the diameter. Here are some pictures of ray florets of informal decorative cultivars. And this one, you don't see the irregularity in this one. It must be, let's see, I can't picture. Harry, oh, I guess that's the set of, yeah. It's a lot less irregular shape than a lot of the informal decks. Yeah, here's a better example: twisted, curly, and wavy ray florets. Semi-cactuses, the ray florets are broad at the base. They are straight or can be incurved. They reflex towards the stem. Remember, that just means that they grow out around the center of the dahlia. They're revolute for approximately half the length and fully revolute for at least a fourth their length. See the way these individuals, let's see, can you see my pointer on there? See the way those are rolling backwards, and by the time it gets out to the equator, they're fully revolute for, say, a quarter of their length.
Hey,
Another
Ron,
example.
excuse me, if you go back to that Harry Magos, which was the ID.
Yeah,
and they showed a picture of the florets, and I could almost see actually as much or if not more semi-cactus in that floret itself as to the
that's
ID.
why I quit on it. Yeah. Yes, Randy's pointing out this area is fully revolute.
1/4.
Yeah, but a quarter of the length. Yes, well
Yeah.
said. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks.
But
Okay.
Ron, that other petal on the same bloom is going backwards.
Yeah, it is. Yep. Partly why it's an ID. You want to look at it again? I think that's just two ray florets from the top and bottom,
Mhm.
I guess. I think, Chris. Or is that what you said? Maybe that's what you said. Okay. What did I do? Switch here? No, I guess we're still on the semi-cactus. Ray florets revolute for approximately half and fully revolute for a quarter. Same form. Okay, now we're switching to cactus. Those are the threes or C's. And the ray florets tend to be narrow at the base. The ray florets come straight out of the bloom head and relatively uniform in length. They are revolute for the majority of their length and fully revolute for about half the length. So it is just more, basically more revolute than the semi-cactus. And you can see there that it is fully revolute or more than half its length. So we are looking at the back of the ray floret here, and that's the front that is curled around to the back. Okay. Incurved cactus just basically means that the ray florets curve in towards the center. They need to be fully revolute for half their length, and but they curl up towards the center. And I think I've got some examples of it here. Yeah, there's Pollyhill cotton candy and river spiky nor. I guess I've never seen that one. That's kind of a wild, isn't it? Okay. Laciniated, now we're getting into something that's kind of thoroughly different in that the tips of all of the ray florets are split, and they are split sufficiently that they will form like a fringed or a frilled effect in the general appearance. And there are some, I guess it's important to recognize that fringed and frilled effect is an integral part of the ideal, quote unquote, ideal form. And that's why it adds the comment that florets with a shallow notch shouldn't be classified as laciniated, and they really need to have that splitting to get the fringed effect. There are some. There are a couple of nice examples. These being those florets. This has got plenty of split in it. This one barely, but it must achieve a fringed effect in the bloom. Answer right on the tip of everybody's mind, I bet, right? 20. That's where we started. Let's see if that's right. Yeah, that is the right answer. Good. Form. What do you think? Cactus?
Cactus.
Yeah. Okay, here's the point that I was just speaking to. That is not sufficiently frilled to be classified as a laciniated dahlia. Okay, we're coming to balls now, and as this is maybe that's the same flower, but its center's hidden. But you can see how nicely round these ray florets are. Let's see, fully involute for more than half their length, and these are well over half. You can see it right out here, almost to the tip. Circular in cross section. Tip should be round or blunt without much of a point in any case. The bloom depth should be equal to the diameter. And the diameter is greater than 3.5 inches for a ball. Yeah. Okay, well, here's one that I disagree with. They have these classified as balls because they are fully involute for more than half their length. And they have these as formal deck because they are not fully involute for more than half their length. And I don't know why they have that one as formal deck, because I think that's, I remember Tony saying, yeah, boy, that's as nice a ball. That's a nice ball. So I guess I don't want to make a big deal out of that, but bring your a bit of natural skepticism to everything that I say, and in a sense to what you see on the screen too.
Right.
I agree with you on that, Ron.
Yeah. I know that it's one that Tony was kind of excited about. Jerry, what you were going to add?
I was going to go back to Clearview Daniel, but this Mary's Jamanda is okay too. You can see the ball until you get around the equator, and these balls do tend to flatten out a bit. And I think that might be what that last, maybe what the, just to give some
Oh.
support to that last slide.
I mean, that was down flattened
No,
so
I think
much.
I think I agree with you and Tony on that. That could have been done better. But if you look at Mary's Gemonda again, the balls do tend sometimes to flatten out a bit around the equator, and you can see it. You could see it here a bit, but
This, I don't think you could
Yeah.
picture that as being round. I mean, that's
right,
definitely oval at best, right?
right,
Same up, yeah, and out at the equator, they may well be getting close to being oval. But the thing that they probably are fully involute for more than half their lengths.
right. But
So
you
it would,
almost have to
it-
pull it in order to see it.
in order to see it. Yep, that's right.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
The center that you have here, is that a good center? Because I just showed for the very first time, just got into dahlias last
Mhm.
year, and I didn't know what was a good center.
It's a pretty good center is what I would say, but it certainly isn't a perfect center. I mean, if you kind of look at here's kind of an oval at the center, and you would really want it to be round. Oh, let me share a secret. When you're dressing your entries, you can put your fingers on either side of that center and squeeze it in and adjust the shape of it.
Okay,
So that's, and you know, nothing too inappropriate about doing that either. So that's probably almost fixable.
so,
But, excuse me,
oh, no,
go ahead.
excuse me, go ahead.
I was going to say, here's another little issue with it that's kind of irregular. You don't have a nice smooth spiraling out of shapes there. You kind of have, sort of a mess there and there. And this
And how
oblong,
many petals or florets should you have kind of hugging each other in the middle to be a good center?
how about if I postpone that one? Because I think we're going to get back to that one, Shannon. Is that okay?
That's good.
Okay.
And you might also want to mention on a ball that you don't want the center to be dimpled in.
That's right. It is, you don't want it cupped. You want it as kind of flat as it can be. And sometimes, and I think Sharon, your point is that one looks like it is a little sunken, doesn't it?
To me, it does,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
but that's
Yeah.
always something to look for on a ball.
Yep. Somebody tell me what time it is. We doing okay? Boy, almost used an hour. We better pick up the pace a little bit. Barbara will remind me. You gonna remind me? Okay, here is a miniature ball, basically the identical shape of the ray florets and the blooms, except they're smaller. This is over 2 inches and up to 3.5 for a miniature ball. And here's a palm, and that's the next step down. Everybody probably knows I'm chuckling over that. If the center weren't such an important part of the bloom, you wouldn't, I mean, you might be able to ignore that, but that's a worse center than the one we just talked about, Shannon. So it's more problematic than the other one. So these are same form, but up just smaller, up to 2 inches. Yeah, cross section should be circular, and this is sure a nice example of that. And you get, excuse me, some wonderful form adherence to the definition in the palm. Some of them are really, really nice.
Can I ask another question?
Yes,
Some of the florets look like they were kind of heart-shaped above the equator. Is that a fault or is that just part of it? Not in that one, but in Marriage to Jomanda. I've just seen it in some of mine. Yeah, so close to the center, they're kind of heart-shaped. Is that a fault or is that okay?
it's such a tiny fault. I don't know that I'd even think about it. Jerry, what do you think? Randy, same? Should be round, but it's sure a tiny fault.
The form is
If it is.
better towards the equator, you know, those are new florets, they're, you know, just in the process of opening. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Yeah.
they will achieve that round effect as they mature.
As it grows, yeah.
So you're saying we judge the equator section for the ball and not the top or the bottom, correct?
No, you do, you judge the whole thing. I mean, but I don't feel like that is enough deviation from round to be considered quote unquote a fault. That's
If
my,
if you deem it if you deem it as something that's, you know, out of character for a ball, then you would judge it accordingly as far as, you know, how severe you see it and how, you know, what is tolerable to make that bloom look very well. And that would be a very, very, if I was to fault that, that'd be a very, very slight fault for me.
Okay,
Agreed.
thank you.
yeah, moving on to Stellars. That one, the Rayforets are long and narrow and they are yeah, one of the big things about Stellars is that they have an openness to them. There is negative space is, you know, one way to talk about it. They aren't close packed like lots of formal decoratives or the balls are. They should be more open. They are partially involute and the cross section approximates a U or a V. They recurve towards the stem. And again, these are allowed to be a little more shallow than most of the other decoratives that we talk about. Here's another example with a U shape. Cinnabar shows the openness. Okay, water lily. The side view should be flat, and I think I have a better picture of that, flat to saucer shaped. So it isn't. It's like it doesn't have depth except in the center. Center should be dome shaped, outer florets broad and slightly cupped with rounded tips. Oh yeah, and depth should never be more than half the diameter. Yeah, like that's way too deep. This is more like the ideal form. I don't know. I have no idea what that bloom is. Could well be a seedling, I guess. Lastly, we have the novelty fully double, and they basically show a shape that's distinct from current forms, and the ray floret should be uniform, and they can be arranged differently as well. But these would be fully double. That is, the center is not open, although that one's a little open. Here's more of the novelty fully double, including a tight closed center. It's interesting, yeah. Excuse me. Okay, is this one a ball? Should be taking a poll. Check the diameter,
Size, yeah.
not big enough. That's a miniature ball. Whoops, I need to find my. No, not a ball, miniature ball. Everybody knows that one.
I got
Water
it.
lily,
There we go.
water lily, right. In cross section, the ray florets of the stellar variety should be approximately what shape?
This is
That's it.
one where you call on somebody in the audience.
Do
Damn.
I, but see, I have trouble doing that because I don't have their pictures. I don't have their names.
We're listening.
They're
Okay,
putting it in the
Okay.
chat. So Paula, Pam, and Coletta all said U shape. Good job.
yay.
Good job.
That's yeah, please do it that way. Or just feel free to call on somebody.
It'll be just like my master's class. I always pick on people in Zoom.
U shape. Yep. Okay, let's see. Summary. Oh, that's just a picture of the different ones. Formal, informal, semi-cactus, cactus, incurved cactus, and laciniated. Those are the 6 sized guys. And we have ball, miniature ball, and palm, and those are sized similarly. Stellar, water lily, and novelty fully double are not sized.
And-
Okay, what did I do last time?
And Fran wrote, so you're going to stop sharing the screen
Yeah,
in the next tab. But the one thing that you touched on is that some dahlias are sized. And I just want to make sure everybody understands what that means.
okay, let's just talk about it for a second. That means that this, and this come as AA, B, BB, miniature, and micro. And if you grow seedlings, you want a micro of any of these because they are few and far between. But in principle, you could have each one of these in those different sizes. And the ball and the miniature ball are a little different in that those are over 3.5, less than 3.5, and less than 2. So it's the same form with 3 different sizes. And the stellar, water lily, and novelty fully double all compete against each other in the same classes, the same color class. So let's see, does that explain it, Jess, or you need
Yeah.
more?
I think it's key just to realize the others can come in all different sizes.
Yeah, all of the, yeah.
Balls have set sizes. And then stellar, water lily, and novelty double. It doesn't matter what the size is at all.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna stop share for a second, and then I'm gonna find the next one. And then I'm gonna, how did I get back to share? Oh, down here someplace, huh?
Go back to Zoom and then share screen.
To Zoom. Oh, yeah.
By the way, note the sized dahlia terminology because there is a question on one of the tests that refers to sized dahlias.
So I don't see Zoom.
You can't get back into Zoom.
Should be able to.
Where would that be, Jess?
I don't
Of
have a
course.
PC, so this is always harder for me.
Well,
It
Have
should
a,
be at the,
have a send the link for Form OC.
no, you're in the browser still.
Essentials, no. Well, folks.
It's all right. Let me log in real quick. I need Sharon to make our passwords a little easier. And which module are you on?
Looking for the Forum Open Center.
Okay.
Probably 3. Module 3.
Module 3.
Getting there. Give me a sec. Our Dahlia.org website is real slow right now.
It has a link.
Let me see.
Yeah. I think I have, how can I have lost the Zoom?
Well, you're still on Zoom, but I gotcha. Give me 1 second. I'll share my screen and you could just tell me when to proceed. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Fairness.
Does this work, Ron? And you just tell
Yes.
me, get
I
back.
don't have I don't have you.
Can you close your browser on your computer?
Ron, are you in full screen mode? If you are, try the escape key.
Did that work, Ron?
No. How about, let's see, how about if, I'm thinking I need to sign back in because I don't find it any place where I have, the Zoom. I know I'm on it, but I don't have a place to click on it.
All right, why don't you hop out and come back?
Why don't,
Have you minimized it? Is it at the very bottom of your browser, of your home screen? The little icon at the bottom? Maybe a
Yes, ma'am.
Z with a blue circle around it?
If somebody has a gold star, would you send it to Sharon, please? Can you see me or not?
Yeah, we can see you. Can you see my screen?
Oh, I'm trying to share oh, you can't start screen while the other participant is sharing. Okay, I think I can do it if you,
Okay, go for it, Ron. You got it. We're back. So we see formal deck again.
shoot, all of that, and it's gone again. Okay, okay, I'm gonna stop share, and then I'm gonna switch to,
The open center. Yep. And then down at the bottom, there was the ZM.
share screen. I'm very sorry,
No, it's
folks.
below, it's the icons below the share screen. Do you have a row of icons below the share screen ones?
Whoops.
You got it.
There you go.
Don't change. You're good.
You guys see me? See my screen?
Yes.
You're all set.
I'm sorry to spend so much time doing that, folks.
It's tough.
Okay, we're going to switch to open centered, and this is an area that I have found a fair amount of enjoyment in, and something I would encourage, everybody to at least tinker a little bit. I think there are gonna be a fair number here where we're gonna fly through. I think obviously pretty much everybody knows that we do have open-centered peony, anemone, novelty open, collarette, orchid, orchette, single and minion single, and we're just gonna kind of zoom through those. My solution to knowing what these numbers mean is to have this classification in the handbook of dahlias in my hand, and I can look at the table that tells you what is what. I do happen to know that collarette is 90 because that one is so common. But again, I just encourage you not to worry a great deal about the numbers for the open centers. I mean, they do make sense, they're logical, but I don't think they're as important as having the letter that this is a collarette with light blend florets. Okay, this is an orchid, and the number for orchid happens to be 92, but again, I wouldn't worry about it. It's really a striking form, particularly when you have such a contrast between the reverse on the florets and the front on the florets. In other words, this is a white ray floret with a red reverse. And of course, the reverse is startlingly different from the front, and it makes a really striking bloom. There are some vocabulary things that we want to talk about, although they're pretty much similar. Incurve, recurve, involute. Here's an involute ray floret. Revolute, there are none. So if you find one, that's going to start out as a novelty open at least. I do have a seedling that has a revolute ray florets on that. Looks pretty much like an orchid except inside out or something. Okay, I'm gonna zip. There's incurved, but again, that mostly relating it here to fully double, which I don't know why. There's the involute. That happens to be an orchid. Revolute can happen. Reflexing goes back to the stem, which is what we already talked about. Okay, these are the collarettes, and they have petaloids. That's what these guys right here are. And again, as I said before, that's an integral part of that ray floret. Those two little petaloids in there. Disc floret is important in open center because the open centers show the disc florets, and all of the definitions, I think, are now 0 to 3 ray florets show a fully developed bloom. Okay, then I think we'll get to the form definitions, which are important. Let's just get to them. Peony, it has a number of ray florets, 2 to 5 rows. This is Elvira. This is probably the most common of the peony form. It can be confused with an open-centered, fully double dahlia. So when you get a seedling that looks like this, you need to kind of look askance on whether or not it should be a fully double that's developed an open center. The ray florets tend to be neither recurving or reflexing. They tend to be flat rows. Okay. And that does have depth, less than a third its diameter. Most of the open centers do not have depth. Anemone, another one that has it. that a dome of tubular disc florets, and again surrounded by normal ray florets. Best if it's 8. There are domes that are, from the point of view of evaluation, probably too full, too big. They're kind of pushing the ray florets back so you can't see them as well. That used to be part of the criteria for judging, and I think still is. More of the anemones. Novelty open. Here's one is involute ray florets. Here's one that's a pointed and unusual, not a particularly good form on that one. Okay, anybody remember what 9207 is? That's that orchid dark red with the white center. Sorry, I was. So what do you think about that one? That's a good example of a fully double that has an open center. It isn't a good peony. Okay, Collarette has a single row of ray florets, and then petaloids that are roughly half the length of the ray florets. Half to 2/3, I guess, is considered ideal. 8 are optimum, and they should be rounded to be ideal, quote unquote. Some examples. This one's really striking, isn't it? That's a really nice eye zone. Orchid, like the red one that I was early on. Orchid has disc flora. Keep saying that. Petaloids, along with fully involute ray florets. Ray florets, flat, even plane surrounding the disc. Petaloids with visual impact. That just means they're big enough that you see them. They can be interesting. They can cup upward toward the center. You don't see that in a whole lot of them, but they tend to be flat. There's a couple more examples of the orchid. How do you differentiate an orchid and an orchid? Pretty clear, I think, right? The petaloids in the orchid and none on the orchid. Singles, pretty much just as you would expect. 8 ray florets surrounding disc flowers. Oh, and this is an interesting picture because that is an important attribute for a single or a minion single, that they lie in a pretty nice flat plane like this does. Minion single, similar except smaller, less than 2 inches. Okay, do we want to do these? What's this one? What are they saying, Jess? Anemone?
They're getting there. Paul,
That put it up too fast.
you gave them the answer too fast. Yep.
Which 2 forms require petaloids?
Right. I'm gonna pick on somebody. Let's see. Whose photo do I see? Gwen and Chris. Oh boy, pressure's on.
Be ones could be colorettes, isn't it? Because the little petals, open
Yeah.
cherub.
Uh-huh.
So go ahead.
Collarette and orchid.
Well
Yep,
done, Quinn.
good job.
Well done. Okay, then the summary, peony, anemone, novelty open, collarette, orchid, or cat, single minion single. Probably one of the largest classes in our shows is the collarette. There's lots and lots and lots of collarettes around. Okay, we done with this one? Everybody okay? I'm gonna see if I can even do this easily this time.
You got it. Good job.
Okay, we're going to talk about the how we evaluate form, and it is the highest. It's the most important, highest ranking characteristic of in our form, in our evaluation of seedlings. 30 points if no faults are detected, which would be extremely unusual. It is the highest ranking one, and it is it used to be a little different. It's now 30 points. Color is 20 points. All of the others, substance, stem, foliage, bloom position, those are each 10 points. And so the point is that if you have a severe form fault, chances are that particular entry is not going to win the class, because the form fault will be of greater importance than a substance fault, for example. But let's get on to it. Okay. No, this is the point about the definitions. And again, I think it's worthwhile making it again. I think as you are going through your initial judging, or if you're a senior judge that's been doing it forever, it's a very good habit to open your classification and handbook and reread the definition of the form that you're looking at, because it's always good to have that fresh in your mind when you're doing it. 4 factors to consider: symmetry, contour, development, and trueness to form. Those are the elements that you are looking for in evaluating the form of an entry. And those are, there are lots of different things associated with that, and that's just what we're going to talk about now. Symmetry basically means everything is uniform around this center. And this is a pretty good example. It has pretty much good equal balance of weight, that is size, and material on both sides. Oh, interesting. Now it's just talking about central axis. I don't think that's the way I would suggest you look at it. I think each of these axes are important. So it's the first time I realized that says that. What do you think about that, Jerry? Randy? You just weigh left to right, or do you look at all of the axes?
I tend to look at the center and let my eyes kind of go out around
Yeah.
to see if everything is balanced all the way around in kind of a circular way.
Yeah.
I think
Well, I think that's what I would recommend that our crew does. Randy, you're okay with that?
What I was gonna say, Ron, is that that axis does not have to be, up and down and or vertical and horizontal. That axis could come in at a 45 or whatever. And then I think the other half of that axis they should mirror each other.
Well said. Well said, Randy. That may be exactly why they wrote it that way.
Yeah.
I view that as central symmetry as opposed to as like bilateral. But yeah, well said. So you want it to look equal all the way around. And it's so easy to find examples where that doesn't happen. Look at the difference in the gap here versus the gap there, for example. You see differences in the form of the individual ray florets. This one isn't fully involute as it should be, and this one is more involute than it ought to be. I don't think that that's correct, but there because look at similarly here. That's a big gap. That's a relatively smaller gap, but they are saying that the difference in the involuteness causes a gap, and I guess that's possible. I don't particularly buy it, but that's possible. Bearding is another common problem. You see particularly on large blooms, the ray florets on the lower half of the bloom can be exaggerated, be a lot longer. And yes, it says it more commonly observed in large blooms that are grown at 45 degrees or maybe even forward facing. Here's another example of asymmetry where the bloom is not growing over the stem. Stem is right here, see it? And the bloom is to the right of the stem. Here, I guess they're saying it's at the back of the stem, although that looks like it's coming up through the center pretty well there. This is a better example in my mind of the centering on a stem. Contour means that basically the build, if you will, of the construction of the ray florets from the center all the way out. Let's see what it says. Contour for the overall structure. The bloom appears round from the face and is free from varying spaces between the florets. Yeah, this isn't a wonderful example because there's a little deviation from the contour, or similarly out here, but it does have pretty good contour.
Hey, Ron, sorry to go back a little bit, but there are two questions in the chat. One is, what causes bearding? Is it just a variety issue or can it be environmental?
I would say that it's basically environmental. If the bloom gets a little dried out, those lower ray florets will have a tendency to be less turgid and therefore to droop more. The ones that are up will have a lower tendency to fall down because they're already projecting up. And does that answer the question?
There's more questions.
Okay.
So Paula just wants to know, so bearding means droopy.
Yep.
And then Coletta says, is bearding more common in larger blooms?
Yes, absolutely.
And Quinn said she has school tomorrow and needs to log off. But she said, thank you, Mr. Miner, Jerry, and Randy.
Pleasure to have us with you, Quinn. Good
Okay.
night.
Absolutely.
I think that's all the bearding questions.
Okay. Here's here are a couple extreme examples of the contour. Over here on the left is pretty wild contour. And let's see, gaps. I guess this, you'd like for it to be more spherical than that. I have a cultivar, one of my introductions that behaves this way, tends to be tuna can shaped as opposed to round in cross section. Yeah, and here's again another example where you're way away from circular and cross section. Development basically means that that the bloom is mature, and here's where we'll get to some of those center examples. This one is pretty clearly overly mature. This one, they're saying peak of development, and that's probably a good characterization. Here, immature. Although that's showing ray florets, so it's just kind of a poor example of the bloom. See the gap here and the gap here. Okay, but the point here is that it has more than 3 rows of pollen, and therefore it is over mature. I would, in my mind, the symmetry issue, of course, we're talking about development. There's a lot more issues on this bloom that are, in my mind, more important than that over maturity, and that like gaps here and here. And
Didn't they
this,
change the preference for 3 rows of pollen?
I think, Sharon, they all say 0 to 3. At least, I'm not sure of that. So Jerry or Randy, you have
It's
a
0
20,
0 to 3,
oh, 0 to 3?
0 to 3.
Thank you. Yeah.
Over 3 is over mature.
And that was a change that, occurred in my memory, Sharon. So if you're thinking it was different, you're right, it was, but it's been 0 to 3 for, some period of time.
I actually prefer 1 to 3, because what I found out in the open centers that people are leaning towards 0 pollen and younger blooms, because you can match them up in multiples much easier than you can, once they start showing their pollen.
Yeah,
And,
right.
I would sooner have the 1, and then, the 3 probably you are maxing out your pollen numbers, but I don't agree with the 0, but I mean, I show them 0, but that's.
Yeah, interesting, Randy. Yeah. Okay, let's keep rolling. Blown center, here is the center is actually open, and you can see the disc florets down in there, and that means that it is blown and it is eliminated. There isn't any more a stronger failure than having an open center. And it's not too uncommon. I mean, it is something that we see, some of our best growers show them right at the edge of having open centers because they're kind of at the peak of maturity that way. So more faults of center. In this case, no more central rays to open. And, I think you could almost make the case that that's very close to having disc florets visible there. Here's one that came to mind when, was it Shannon that asked earlier? This is a fault. It's just too heavy. Some of the ones that we saw were just beyond what they should have been, but this is a more severe fault than those were. And here's one again, more on the ragged edge of being open centered. And I was going to ask Randy and Jerry to comment. I don't consider green centers like these, like this one maybe in particular, to be a severe fault. Do you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Gary.
Actually, I do.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
The ones I don't, obviously, are the ones that just have a pinhole. I know I've got some friends in the society who even consider a pinhole a real
Yeah. Yeah,
maybe the word severe is too much, but
that's the piece
I
that
mean, okay, but definitely a fault, but maybe not severe.
I agree with you, Jerry. The pinhole is that's just, I think it's just a matter of maturity. And these here green centers, they just they bother me, and I judge them accordingly, to the severity.
The
I
one in the bottom left
yeah, this is severe.
is severe, yeah, and it may just be the contrasting color there is so
Could
dramatic.
well be.
You
Yep.
know, whereas the one in the upper right, don't see it quite as much because the colors aren't really that,
I guess the
doesn't show up.
reverse of the florets are closer color here
Mhm.
than they are here apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, the purple one, it appears to be a closer to a hard center than it does, just
Yeah.
a simple maturity issue.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see. Occasional ray floret may not completely meet at the center. Small hole. This is considered a slight fault, which is what Jerry just said. Not the same as a lone center for sure. I get a kick out of that one. That's a misshapen center. Has poor symmetry, contour, and development. So this is not going to be a winner. This one, I guess this is kind of a slide that add each of these gradually, but it basically covers all of the things that we've already talked about in different steps. Okay, the fourth item is trueness to form, and that basically boils down to your assessment of the extent to which the cultivar matches that ideal definition. And again, important that you know what that definition is, particularly if you're classifying it as a formal deck, that it conform to that definition to the fullest extent possible. And I think they have some examples of that here. Yeah, well, that's certainly an extreme example where I guess I don't know what you'd call that besides mix. That's what they get to. An irregular arrangement, more than one form, is mixed form. Yeah, another example where you've got the twisted, you got some flat ones, you have some formals, then you've got twisted, those are informals. I guess that's the same story there, although less obvious, although these are certainly a mixed form. Shallow size proportion matters. These depths are way too shallow. And again, it refers you back to the CHD to look for the correct depth. Yeah, that's got everything wrong with it. Well, These are pretty clear if you looked at a single and had more than one row of ray florets that aren't in a flat plane, for example, that goes directly against the the form definition. Orchid would have a couple or more rows again, are not in volute. Petaloids too long or too short on a collarette. Dome not developed on an anemone. Petaloids too small to be seen in the orchid. Water lily, you see a lot of lousy water lilies out there where they're not flat and saucer shaped. And somehow I have a seedling in the garden that is either an ID or a lousy water lily. I don't know which yet. Stellar florets not narrow, not involute, not recurved. Depth greater than the diameter, which isn't good for a stellar. And this is a little like that one that I skipped over where it's looking at all of the various form problems, asymmetry, lopsided, immature, missing ray florets. Florets drop back unequally. That would be like an anemone. Form is a tweener, doesn't meet any standard. Pest damage. Pest damage matters in some cases, but not in a trial garden. Gaps in contour. And the reason for that is that you are evaluating the cultivar in a trial garden, and the pest damage would be not a fault of the cultivar, but rather of the environment and the environment provided by the trial garden director. So pest damage doesn't matter in a trial garden as much. Okay, we got to get one more in, I guess, huh?
I have another question if someone could answer this. So sometimes, and I'm very new to dahlia, so maybe this is just an experience issue, but like it seems to me that a lot of times the informal decorative and water lilies have like a strong overlap where they just look really similar. Is that like kind of profile view, the side view to look for that saucer shape? Is that like a big piece of that, or are there some other like big, I guess, big things to look for to distinguish?
Probably in my mind, let the other guys leap in. Is the saucer shape from the side view? It should be shallow, and those ray florets should be puffed up. And if you're an ID should be much deeper, should be upwards of 3/4 the depth, and those ray florets should be either irregularly arranged or they should be twisted, wavy, or curled. So they're really pretty different. And I suspect that you're looking at water lilies that are not particularly good quality, because you do have some of those on the market for sure.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Thank you very much.
And
Okay,
don't you
the
want to
next-
kind of count the layers of petals in a water lily? To me, that's I look for 7.
Excellent point, Sharon. The definition says 4 to 7, and you see a lot of them that are well over 7. And that would tend to get you to where they were going further back and where they had the potential to be different, not as cupped. Yeah, good point. Okay, size is the last of the 5 that I was going to cover. And let's see. This classification introduce, we're gonna talk about the size and the depth. And I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time talking about the lettering system associated with that. And how size has evolved. Yeah, this one we can get through relatively quick order. The size is the issue that, gosh, was it Sharon or no? Somebody asked on the chat that Jess raised. Size matters for the formal deck, informal deck, semi-cactus, cactus, incurved cactus, and novelty fully double. In each of those cases, you have sizes, and that's why you need to determine the size. Let's see. Size of one of the tallest dahlias, okay. Okay, yeah, we probably should look at the terminology again. Oh, I guess we don't need that one. Ray florets, fully double open center cultivar hybridizer. That just means somebody grows from seedlings and introduces new cultivars. Fully double, we're not going to spend much time on that. Open center, we just did that. Cultivar means an individual, unique plant. May look like a lot of others, but it would be, its genome would be unique. These are, probably everybody knows Dick and Danielle. Danielle passed away 3 or 4 years ago, I guess now. Dick is still actively involved. They are responsible for the Clearview dahlias, which are super popular. I kind of get a kick out of the way they show the tape measure versus the diameter measurement on here. The one that's correct, it would be right along the yellow line. So I don't know why it's shown that way, but you want to measure the maximum diameter to the outside of the ray florets at the center of the bloom. So you're looking at the yellow bar there is what you're wanting to do to determine size. Again, just another example. And I don't know why the tape measures up there, except that's what you're going to use to measure size, I guess. Depth is ideally 3/4 on most of the sized ones. And note that the depth is determined basically at the along the center line from the face to the outermost tips, perpendicular to the face of the bloom. So that's a pretty good picture of it. But on an informal decorative dahlia, for example, you sometimes get into issues where, you've got florets sticking out here that may be longer than the ones in here. So it isn't, I tend to, if you have a single ray floret eyeball sticking out there, I will sometimes not go to the extreme, even though that's kind of what they're saying there, outermost. What do you do, Randy?
I try to work with the contour and the sphere of the bloom, if you got, like you said, if you got one floret that's sticking out there, that's kind of an outlier to me. So.
You okay with that, Jerry?
You know,
Leave them out?
Yep,
Leave the oddball out?
yep, for sure.
Here's another one. Follow the yellow marking. Size and depth. So standard only applies to sized varieties. Yeah, that's all the formal, informal, semi-cactus, cactus, incurved cactus, and laciniated. Is that what I said last time? I don't think I put the laciniated in there, did I?
missed it.
It doesn't matter, I guess.
No.
Here it is again, AA, AB, BB in miniature, and now micro, and that will be experimental until 25. Final decision will be made next year as to whether to add that micro class.
That could include 9 more.
Yep.
9 more forums.
Yep, good. Yep, which complicate, obviously, folks, Jerry is sensitive to that because it means 9 more classes to be laid out on our shows. So, I mean, it
Yeah.
is a significant change. At the moment, we're pretty safe in lumping a lot of those micros together because there sure are very few of them. But I think we're going to see more and more of them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, those are the 4-digit numbering. 1 means it's an A, 4 means it's a BB, 3 is a B, 1 is A, 2 is a B. Clearview Lila is a stellar not sized, where the 70 means stellar. And then we're going to zip through this because I guess I feel like this gets to be pretty obvious. The latter 2 digits are for color, and the second one is for form, and the first one is for size. Okay. Yeah, this is interesting. Let me just get down here to a couple. Before the 30s, there was no size classification. The average was 5, and the premium was for every 2 inches over that.
Hmm.
And then they went to 2 sizes, A and B, over 8 and under 8. And then after that, obviously they added 1 on each side of that. So now you have a AA and a BB. And let's see, we're still going. Miniature after that. Yeah, so these are now the official size categories. And as I said before, and I think they're going to say here, they're also looking at the micros now. Just going to be a next one lower. 1210, which letter represents the size of the bloom? You going to ask people there, Jess?
Sure. Okay. We picking on Shannon, you're up.
Number 1.
Good job.
Good job. All right.
103.
Oh, I like how Tammy like hit the deck and ran out of the room. Judy. Oh boy, give her a sec to unmute. Okay.
So that would be a B.
16.
Good job. Look at these
Yep.
guys acing the test. All right. Jeff Miner, we're putting you to the test on this one. You'll have to unmute. There you go.
Wow, call me out. So formal deck, informal deck, semi-cactus, cactus, icy and laciniated.
Well said.
Good job.
Yep.
There they are. I guess that's pretty obvious stuff, I think, right? So it's going to be the ones that Jeff just talked about. That's the end. Okay, geez, open conversation as far as I'm concerned, folks. The next part is gonna be on color, and I forget how many sections there are there. 2 or 3 to
Two.
cover color?
2, I think.
2. Okay. And Jerry's gonna sort of lead that parade, and I will look forward to that. Obviously, Randy and I will comment where it seems appropriate, but thank you all for coming, and if you want to chat, let's do that.
Anybody?
Tammy, I'm sure has a question, since she hopped out there when we
Oh,
were
yeah.
trying to ask
I
her
saw you
questions.
scurry out of the room, Tammy.
Ron, can I
That was
say
a
something?
good bathroom break.
Yeah.
Please, Randy, yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
I want everybody to know a couple things. First of all, these modules they're just a tool, but you got to use the whole tool chest. So don't think you can skate by just watching this video. You need to use your classification book and your judging manual. You just have to, because like Ron said, that classification book ought to be on you when you're judging. As many years as that I have, and Ron and Jerry are topping that off, that we still got to revert back to definitions and stuff of form and color and that bloom deserves your best. That's
You
why
learn
we're
by
there.
doing.
Absolutely. The other thing I had as far as tonight was, mentioned that, to be a good judge, you should know your insects and your funguses and bacterias and, la. And I've found it very an advantage to kind of check these things up on YouTube. Now, with that, take it in a grain of salt, because you can't always rely on everything you see on YouTube. I'm sure that's a shock to a lot of us, but that's try to identify your sources, and then take them in there. That's all I got.
Thanks, Randy.
Mhm.
Jerry, you want to say anything?
No, are we saying something about tests later at the end?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, the fifth week or so.
the requirements to move up in the schedule are in the judge's ranking is all on the ADS website. And as you will realize when you look at it, that there is some flexibility in the requirements, and in addition, there are some that we have difficulty meeting because we don't have a trial garden nearby. So that's part of the reason our ATD seminar, which is kind of probably our most traditional
So
our most normal get together is associated with judging seedlings. And the requirements are pretty substantial. I think maybe 15, although that may be over a 4-year period, seedlings to be judged. And one of the best ways to do that, in my mind, is to grow some seedlings. And then you have an opportunity to have your own experiment in your own backyard. So I would encourage everybody to think in that context, that a good way to develop experience in judging seedlings is to judge some of your own. That didn't answer your question, I guess, did it, Jerry? We can include a discussion of the requirements at one
But
of
there
the.
is a candidates, for those of you who are candidates, there is a new test out and it's real, very, very good. I looked it over not too long
Yeah.
ago. And there's
Yeah.
some, and if you just follow these modules, you should be able to basically answer all those questions.
Yeah, well said, Derek. Good point. I forgot about that candidates test. It's available on the website, and it is something that is interesting, and it brings and useful. And it brings to mind that I would like for you all to register your completion of the modules. I don't know how many of you I've been doing that, but please register when you complete them. And I guess, or I believe that I get a report on that, and I'd like to see that you guys are doing it. And I would encourage the people that are observing rather than becoming a judge to do that as well. I think it'll help hook you. Well, no questions, we can quit. Barbara keeps telling me it's time to quit, so.
So there's one more. Lee just said, do you have to do that each year as a candidate judge? It's just once, right?
The candidates test?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. And I don't think our candidate judges should feel a need to do it until they have been through approximately a year. You know, that having some experience at one of our shows, or all of our shows, better yet, that they'd be in a better position to probably walk back through the modules and then do the test. But I think, as Jerry implied, that the test kind of follows the modules.
Okay.
I
And
think you'd do better if you did it after you've had some in the field experience.
Yeah, for sure.
okay, and Chris, did you get your question about the green bracts answered? So Chris had asked, the green bracts, like is common on Clearview, Danielle, are those a fault? If so,
Yes.
would they fall into a similar knock as the green centers?
No,
So
no. The bracts are ordinarily just visible when you look hard. If you're, have that bloom right in front of you, and, Tony's perspective is it never ought to look closer than arm length. That says it too strongly, that the emphasis ought to be on viewing it from a distance. So a green center is often clear from an arm's length, but the bracts would not be. My view. Jerry, Randy?
But if they are, then it's a
Yeah,
fault.
okay, clearly, if they are, it's a severe fault, sure. But I don't think Daniel has obvious faults from arm's length, does it? That's the yellow one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Not that I recall, but perhaps.
Chris is off, I guess, huh?
No,
I think Danielle gets times gets that brown bracken. I remember back in old when there was Wild Man used to do the same thing,
Yeah.
at certain points that and sometimes they were obvious.
Yeah. In which case it's a fault.
okay. Well, I think that's everything. And this girl has a bedtime. So, Ron, thanks so much for this one. We'll meet again next week, same time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining.
thanks, Jess. Thanks, Ron. Randy.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
all. Yep.
you.
Bye-bye.